Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. I've been very busy the last couple weeks and haven't really had really good video ideas to come up with anyway, so I thought I'd wait until I have some cool equipment to show, and I've got both. I've got some cool stuff to show and some cool video ideas. Next week should open up and I will have more time for that stuff. Today's video is about a horn that very few people have probably seen or played, except for those who went to NAMM. Yes, this is the Yfort, let's see, YSL 763 that I talked about in my NAMM report this year. There were several very good large tenors at the show. There was the Shire's Rahano model, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was really easy to play, made a cool sound. The Courtois New Yorker, which was one of the easiest horns I've ever played, and also sounded really good. And this. Kind of a surprise out of left field. You'd think like the Bach Peter Steiner model or something like that would be in the top three. No, this is in the top three, and not by like a giant margin. These two horns, the other ones, they're like $6,500 or whatever. Very good instruments. This is about a third of that price and is like maybe that much worse. So let's talk about what Yfort is and how good this instrument is. So Yfort is a Chinese company, and as far as I know, this is the spiel I got at the booth, is run by a guy who ran, or still runs, I'm not sure, a factory making like Eastman trombones for like the last 15 years. So it has a lot of experience manufacturing, kind of like putting things together, making good components, all that kind of stuff. And at some point he was like, you know what? I know a lot about this stuff, and until very recently, kind of nobody in China was actually designing their own trombones. There are, instruments here and there that come out that are not the usual copies, but not a lot, and not really aiming for like the kind of high-end, actually professional level instruments. And so this guy was like, why don't I do that? And here we go, we have Yfort. Not a single component on this trombone is, as far as I can tell, a straight up copy of anything. I'm sure there's some measurements that are the same, like the crook. There's no reason for this to be like a completely new part. Maybe the tuning slides might be like Bach 42 sized. It looks like it. I don't have a non-reversed 42 slide to compare. And the bell flare measures close to like a Con 88H, so not 42 size. But I'm sure it's not exactly the same. And of course, it has a screw bell. So, very cool, right? Someone actually went to the trouble to design an entire new large tenor and then also make it, and not just, bang out a couple horns, make them really well. At the booth, and I talk about this in the NAMM report, my friend and I played like all 7 of these. There were ones without screw bells. There's versions with slightly different slides. I couldn't really tell the difference between all of them. There were like 7 of them, and they all played great. They all felt good in the hands. They all sounded pretty much the same. So there's not just like one hero horn that just happened to be good. They all were like this. My friend bought this at the show. I did not buy this because somebody knocked it off his stand and put a huge flat spot in both of these tuning slides. So we got a nice discount. That price that I quoted, about a third of the price of the expensive horns, that's without the discount. That's the normal price. So this was much cheaper than that. Let's talk about the general design of this instrument. It's a 547, 8.5 inch bell, large tenor, so that's the basic stuff. We have different length nickel oversleeves, so kind of Shire's, Bachish, yellow tubes, a nickel crook, so that's more Shire's. And I'm pretty sure this is a tenor-sized crook, not a bass-sized crook. We have a brand new rotor valve. This is not a copy of anything. It's super weird. It has 2 180-degree ports. What does that look like? Looks a little bit like that. Not the valve itself, but look at that wrap. Not that different. I don't think that's something copied necessarily. I think that's kind of, this is one of the solutions you have to 2 180-degree ports. It is a weird choice. Nobody does this. Almost everybody does two 90-degree ports, or maybe 90 and 180. So that's, again, totally new. Open RAF attachment. This has a rose brass tuning slide, which is 42 sized-ish. And then yellow bell, which is now two pieces and probably was two pieces forever, with a screw bell. And like I said, the bell right here is a little bit smaller than Bach 42. So even though this kind of looks like it could be 42 Shire Z, it is not a straight up 42 copy in basically any way. We also have 3 lead pipes, a 1, 2, and 3. I've got the 2 in here. I actually haven't even tried the other ones because it plays crazy well with just this lead pipe. So, what is this horn like? Well, one, it's weirdly light. It's just like really nice to hold. It is a tiny bit front heavy because of the screw bell, but generally it's just not heavy. So I played the Courtois New Yorker, which is also not a heavy instrument. It has a Hagman, which are pretty light. Also has a screw bell. And the ergonomics on that horn are worse. Straight up. I played it for a little bit and I was like, wow, I actually could not play one of these for a long period of time. And this, it's fine. Especially with like a Geta grip, I could just play it. The slide is okay. I know someone who worked on it, we've had a couple techs look at it so far, said the upper cork barrel was made out of round, so it wasn't just a circle, it was approaching a circle. And somebody else worked on it as well. And it is better now. It's definitely playable, but it feels like it's definitely not up to the par of like Edwards Shires, the big American makers. The valve is great, but is very strange. So usually a valve has some kind of end play. And that means when you pull or push this direction on the stop arm, the valve might move a little bit. It'll go this way or this way. Ideally, it has 0. The plate on this side has been machined just right so that the valve does not move back and forth. A valve that wears out eventually usually has a little bit of end play and then a little bit of this play as well. And that's just how valves are made. Instead of doing that, instead of machining the back plate to fit perfectly, they have kind of a loose back plate. It still fits, it goes in, but it does not hold the valve so that there's no end play. But you'll notice this doesn't have any end play because there's a little tiny Allen bolt in the center of this valve cap with a spring-loaded ball bearing that actually touches the spindle of the valve on this side. And so you adjust this little bolt, you go eek, 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 and you get the valve end play just right. I actually didn't notice this, and neither did the first tech who looked at it. But I took this to Sandhagen, and he got out like a little thing and was messing with it, and I was like, what is he doing? And he was like, oh yeah, if you screwed the valve cap on too far, the valve would not move because the Allen bolt was actually too far in. So what you do is you put the valve cap all in the way and adjust it, and now it is perfect. And what's even better, of course, is, it's nice to have a valve that moves, but it plays really, really well. It's not like the most open thing on the planet. It's not the most resistant. It's just right there in the middle. It just feels good. I don't have the world's best pedals on it, but it just plays really easily. There's no weirdness. And it makes a nice broad sound. It doesn't clamp down on the sound or do anything weird when you play loud. Very good valve design, even with the weird ports and all that kind of stuff. And it's got a nice screw bell. We'll talk about the case in a moment. It came with a screw bell case. Again, not yet. One strange thing about this, I guess, there's several strange things. This slide, looks like a Shire slide, looks like an Edwards slide, is not compatible with anything. This taper is about the same as Bach, Edwards, but it's a lot shorter. So for instance, here's an Edwards. Whoop. They're in different places. It's shorter. The threads are completely different. So a really odd decision on Yfort's part to make this incompatible with existing stuff. I think a few makers have fallen into this trap. Shires uses a different taper and different threads, but only by a tiny amount than Bach or Edwards. Is there a reason for that? I don't think so. I think it's silly to redesign and engineer a new part just so you can't use other makers' parts. I don't know if anyone's patented the same size connectors so that you can't do it on your trombone. That's a little bit of a misstep by a lot of makers, honestly. Courtois does the same thing. Lead pipes, also not compatible with any other brand. The outer diameter of the threads, this is wildly different by like 2 millimeters, so you cannot swap back and forth. And I've tried everything. It doesn't fit. So that's, again, one of those weird choices. Like, it's cool to have different lead pipes, but it's even cooler if you can use other manufacturers' lead pipes and not just the ones it comes with. Of course, you can just put this, whatever it's called, ring on a different lead pipe and it'll fit. Other than that, this horn is really good. It just makes a cool, colorful sound. It's so easy to play. Everyone I've had play it, and I think I'm up to like 4 different people right now. Sorry, my friend who bought this. I've had a bunch of different people play it, and they're like, wow, that's really easy. It just makes noise. There's nothing weird about it. It just plays. And this is with my least friendly mouthpiece, my New York 3.5. It just matches and goes. And the high range is really good too. The low range honks out. The only downside for us Bach people is that since this is a little more 88H size up here, the sound is not quite as wide as we would expect. With a good 42, some people don't need that, and for them, this horn is perfect, including my friend who bought this, plays an 88H, and this is 88H size, so she's going to be happy because it just plays so much more easily than the 88H does. And the sound is not maybe quite as interesting as like the vintage cons, but it's not that far off. It has a cool color to it. It has some zing, some overtones. It's not dull, even with a yellow screw bell. So, conclusion, right after we talk about the case, I'm sorry. Ugh. Yes, it came with this as well. This might look familiar if you have a Marcus Bana screw bell case. I have one for bass. I don't have one for tenor. So I'm not sure how different this is from the Marcus Bana tenor case, but it is remarkably similar to my bass case. Got the usual slide arrangement here, the lead pipe case, pocket at the end. This also has a brace right here across the top of the bottom part here. That's kind of cool because mine doesn't have that, and it's one of the scarier aspects of that case. It's got the like bell sock. You put this over the flare, and it fits the horn just fine. And having seen, Marcus Bana's, I have one, and the knockoffs like the Basili case, that case is on the level of the Marcus Bana. If that's not a real Bana, then I would actually be surprised because it's like exactly the same in quality and appearance. It is a very nice case. And it just came with this. You don't have to pay an extra $700 for a new case. The Banas are expensive. So, win, 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 win in every direction. I kind of wish I could get one of these now too. It would be nice to get that discount that my friend got. But I wouldn't even necessarily need that because they're not that expensive. It'd be a great backup, travel horn, etc. Stuff you want to use for a little bit lighter repertoire. For me, I think for some people it would be totally fine for everything. Very cool instrument. It's not perfect. Slide could use some work. Probably just the way that they're drawing tubes is not perfect as of yet. But what a cool instrument. And I really hope to see what happens to this company in the United States. If they actually get some dealers, we start seeing them places, maybe they come out with some basses. That would be very cool to see. Anyway, if you get the chance, I highly recommend trying a Yfort. And I'll see you all in videos next week when I have like 5 new trombones or something like that. Bye-bye.